Okay. So, yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Ashwin KM. I'm going to be hosting this session uh, on behalf of YNC. We are holding a session for the CNC identifying session, CNC identification, and I'd like to welcome you all for this session. Uh, First of all, I'd like to introduce our uh, members. This session is going to be done by Paul, Antony, and Aditya Bari, both of whom are students at St. Joseph College, St. Joseph University, Bangalore, and they have been long time iNaturalists. So let's welcome them. Just give them a warm welcome. Okay. So then without further ado, let's begin this meeting. Let's begin this session.
So, hello everyone. Me and Aditya. So yeah.
Hello everyone.
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
Yeah. So we'll begin with our session now.
Somebody's mic is on.
We request everyone else to please turn off their mic if possible, so that we can present.
Yeah, everyone please turn off the mics.
Okay.
You can begin now.
Welcome everyone to our session on identifying on iNaturalist. So me and Aditya will be conducting this session. It will be basics about identification, like the identify feature on iNat, as well as ID ethics, and giving a brief overview of what we aim to do for like CNC as the ID team. So to start with, what was the vision behind our CNC ID team? So this all started last year in 2023, when we all were part of CNC 2023. Like we took up the job of basically identifying observations for all the observers who participated in CNC, like on iNaturalist. So like what we were faced with like thousands of observations and only like a few dozen people who were there identifying. And that led to several observations that were left at a really basic ID, like an unknown or a plant or an animal. And so we got very valid complaints from many participants of CNC that what I have uploaded online wasn't identified, and that they weren't able to learn about what taxa they had just uploaded online. So during CNC, people upload observation stuff that they see on iNaturalist, and what we received from the people was that uh, they wanted the IDs, but there was no one to ID them. And so we thought like we need more identifiers for CNC next year, especially since CNC this year is much larger. There are over 200 cities that have registered, and perhaps we might be expecting over 10,000 observers, and each observer perhaps giving a few dozen to even 100 of observations at the minimum. And so like what we wanted was to get a team of identifiers who know the basics of iNaturalist and the identify feature on iNaturalist, so that they can give basic IDs, at least a plant or a fungus or an animal, and then take it further a bit, like as people get more accustomed with identifying, as they are more used to iNaturalist, they can go try giving further IDs, like till family.
If I record on my computer, they'll come to know.
Excuse me, Delilah, could you mute yourself? Yeah. So basically, we wanted to build a community of active iNaturalist identifiers so that we can have discussions on IDs and how to like identify certain groups of organisms. And further than that, like we also wanted to get people interested in taxa, the identifiers themselves. As you start identifying all the organisms, you might find yourself attracted to a certain taxa, be it birds, butterflies, or beetles. So then you might become more comfortable with IDing those groups and provide further IDs for them. and hopefully become some kind of a taxa expert in that kind of field. So that was the main vision behind us making the CNC ID team. To now start with what iNaturalist is. So iNaturalist is basically a citizen science biodiversity documentation platform. So basically anyone can upload pictures of whatever they observe around them. It could be a plant, a fungus, or even bacteria. Except for fossil organisms, you can upload any kind of living organism and even any kind of evidence of it. It could be a footprint or a scat of an organism, and even that you can upload on iNaturalist. And it allows you to basically learn about all the biodiversity that is around you. So as I mentioned, you observe everything around you and basically give an ID to it as far as possible. So that allows to build a kind of repository in your kind of in your region. So like if anyone wants to check what species are around them, what are the common species that they find, so you can just go on to iNaturalist on the Explore tab and search what all stuff is observed around you, plants, animals, insects, like any kind of organism around you. And like also one really interesting part of iNaturalist is it's almost like a social media, but for nature enthusiasts or naturalists. And it allows people like from all over the world to interact. They can identify your observations, see your observations, and basically communicate with each other. It builds a kind of network. The thing is, me, Aditya, and members of our like naturalist group called YNC or Young Naturalist Community, we met through iNaturalist itself. We started by observing stuff around us and interacting with each other. We were identifying each other's observations. We thought we would like bring together all of us to the so that we can communicate with each other and like discuss basically everything about identification, biodiversity, and have a community of naturalists. So iNaturalist helped bring us together. And it also has a really large community of researchers. Lots of taxa experts that are like famous in the field of research also engage in iNaturalist and give
Don't cut, Baba. There's
identification.
a lot of homilies. Huh?
Excuse me, Reshma ma'am, could you mute
Um,
yourself?
All repair are
Yeah. Um, So yeah, we iNaturalist is basically provides a community of naturalist researchers and like lots of taxa experts basically, and they all help to identify organisms around you. And there's also one more thing: it's not just people observing stuff randomly; it also contributes to research data. So most of the observations uploaded to iNaturalist are part of this category called needs ID. So like if any identifier hasn't identified it to species level yet, like multiple people haven't agreed to that identification, species level identification, it remains at needs ID. But once two or more people agree to a species level identification, it enters a category called research grade. Then it enters this global biodiversity informatics facility, a GBIF database. It's basically a place where all the research data all over the world of species records is collected and collated, and so that researchers all over the world can access them and use it for their research. So any kind of citizen scientist, any normal citizen can directly contribute to research through iNaturalist by just observing whatever stuff is found around them. So like iNaturalist can be accessed through both the website and the mobile app. For today, we'll be dealing with the website largely because the mobile app, the identify feature of the mobile app isn't like the app doesn't have an identify feature, and it doesn't have as many features as the website. So we would suggest that if you have a desktop, please do try to get on the website. And even on mobile, it's better off if you're on the site rather than the app, since it has more features. For uploading observations, it might be better to use the app, but just if you're on phone, it might be better to use the app. But site is almost recommended for identification. So with that, I'll hand over the talk to Adi, so that Aditya, so that he can talk about the website and how to identify on it.
Thank you, Paul, for the introduction and I'll take over from here. So here we see the general interface of the website. This, as you can see here, this is the Explore tab. So once you go on the website, you can go on this tab to check out the observations uploaded by other users, although it includes your observations as well. So this is a list of all the observations that have been uploaded to the site. And by default, although they're filtered by the upload time, so like the most recently uploaded observations will show up on top. It does not have any filters. It shows everything, no taxa filters, no location filters, although I have the location filter on by default here, as you can see. So what I've chosen this filter so that I'll only see the observations from India, because that's what I'm familiar with. I'm familiar with the fauna flora of India. So you can do this as well. You can filter observations based on certain region you're familiar with by typing in the location here, or you can filter it by taxa by typing in the taxa you're familiar with, if you're familiar with anything. If not, no need for that. Just put India if you'd like, or you can identify global observations as well. If you want, you can narrow it down more to your state, to your city, to your district. But that's not necessary. It just makes it more convenient and more personalized for you to identify. And over here, can you see? So we have identify feature. So if you click on this tab, it will lead to this page. So this is sort of like the Explore tab, but more it's more catered to the needs of identifiers. It makes it more convenient to identify observations, because by default, some filters are put in. You can see here the filters. By default, this one filter is the quality grade. As Paul mentioned before, he talked about needs ID and research grade grades of observations on iNat, but there's one more grade called casual grade. So the observations that lack the requirements to be identified fall into this category. So that includes observations which lack photos, observations that don't have any photos or audio, or are lacking there's no date and location information, or some data quality is questionable, so that maybe the location doesn't seem correct whether. So anything that's marked as this, or captive and cultivated organisms which are not suited for a naturalist. So all these observations that cannot go to research grade they fall in casual grade. Needs ID are the observations that have these requirements, but have not been ID'd to species level by more than two people. Once more than two people agree to a species level identification on an observation, it goes on to become research grade. And all the research grade observations are already uploaded to GBIF, GBIF, from where scientists can access that data. We have many other filters over here. Here, you can filter it by the type of observation it is. So captive makes it so that you only find the observations that have been tagged as captive or cultivated. That is, the organism shown in the observation is either a captive animal or a plant that was cultivated by humans. Next, we have the threatened filter. If you select this, you will see observations of taxa, observations of animals, plants, fungi that have been classified as threatened, endangered by IUCN. Next, we have introduced. So introduced refers to species that were not known from the selected area naturally. They were not present there naturally, but ended up there through human interference. So they got introduced to that place because of humans, because of human activity. Includes invasives as well as naturalized species. The popular function, if you select this, you will see observations that have been marked as favorite by more than one person. If anyone marks an observation as favorite, they'll show up under this category. These three are self-explanatory, but I'll say if you select this option as sounds, you will find observations that have an audio recording uploaded. Not only audio recording, it may have audio and photo. It can be at least,
It will have a sound.
it will have at least sound. Same with photos, but vice versa. It will have at least photos or photos and sound. You can select uh, multiple tags on all the places. You don't need to select just one. If you want, you can filter with multiple tags. The description and tags, this function is not very, it's not necessary, it's not required because most people don't put tags or description in their observations, and since it's just free text based information, it can be anything. It's tougher to filter with this. So we'll just leave this. It's not that required. Categories. So this refers to the general grouping of taxa that has been done to make it easier to narrow down the observations you see. So you don't need to select specific taxa such as flowering plants or bees or ants or spiders. You can just click on one of these. The first one refers to birds. If you select this, it will filter so that only the observations of birds are showed. Second one is amphibians. Third one is reptiles. It includes all reptiles. It's sort of broad so that it's not very specialized, but still it narrows down to cater to your personal needs, to the identifier's needs. Fourth one is mammals. Fishes, it includes all sorts of fishes, ray fin fishes. Okay, wait, no.
All fishes.
And this one is mollusk. It includes all mollusks,
Snails,
snails, cephalopods, octopuses, marine mollusks, everything. This one is arachnida. All eight-legged arthropods come under this category. It includes spiders, scorpions, mites, ticks, everything. This one is for insects. The
bees,
wasps, insect. Even we know
grasshoppers,
insects in
yeah.
general. This one is for plants. It filters all the plants, not just flowering plants, not just dicots. All species that come under the kingdom Plantae. It includes mosses, ferns, gymnosperms, everything, all sort of plants. This one is for fungi. This one is for slime molds, only for slime molds, and this one will lead you to observations that have either not been ID'd or do not fall into any of these categories. So that includes microorganisms, it includes bacteria, viruses. We can post observations of that as well. So it includes all that stuff. If you don't select any of the categories, it will show all the observations without any filters. Otherwise, you can select only the ones you want, and so it will filter about rank. So the rank here refers to the taxonomic rank of the observations. High refers to the higher limit, and low refers to the lower limit. So if I select genus as the higher limit, so it will only show observations that have been ID'd to at least genus or species or all the lower ranks. Anything above genus will not show up. Well, this one is the opposite. If I select genus over here, it will only show the observations that have been ID'd to maximum genus level. So anything below genus, that is subgenus, species, subspecies, that will not be shown. Only genus, family, order, the higher taxa will be shown. Sort by. So from here you can sort how the observations are arranged. There are three ways you can sort. Date added, that is the date the observation was uploaded on. Date observed, that is the date the photo or the record was made, the audio was recorded when the observation, when the organism was observed. And the third one is by faves, so favorites. So if you select that, it will filter by the most favorited observation, then like that. You can change the order from descending, ascending. That's the thing. Date observed. You can filter the date observed. You can select any that won't will show up. It will show all the observations without any criteria. You can select the exact date, so it will show only the observation observed by people on that specific date. You can select a range from 2 days to months, years, anything. There's no limit. So you can just select a range if you want, or you can select months. So if you select months, you can filter by month. So if I select June, it will show observations from June, but not just this years, but all the years from June 23, June 22, June 21, June 20. All the observations that were made in the months of June across the history will show up in this. This generally used for seasonal studies, like to see when certain species are popping up, when they're appearing, when they're disappearing. For example, many species, when certain plant is flowering, when certain migratory species are coming in, going out, that sort of stuff. And reviewed means if you have visited the observation before or not. Once you comment on an observation or give an ID to an observation, it will be marked as reviewed by you. So by default, it's set to no. So only the observations you have not ID'd before will show up. You can change that by clicking here. And once you update the search, it will just show all the observations that
Adi, for check the chat. Can you explain again from ranks from filters about ranks from filters not identify that? Also, are they important?
Yeah, I mean, it's just used to filter organisms based on, like, if you can't identify something like past a certain rank, like if you're trying to look for a family of ants or like a subfamily of ants, you can select subfamily level as the lower limit, and then you can just search like ants that are identified to the subfamily and then identify it to a lower level, like a genus. Like you can filter it so that it's at a level that you're comfortable with. So if you're comfortable with higher level IDs, you can just filter it to, like, you can set the lower limit as an order or a higher level basically. That then you can give lower level IDs.
That's mostly it. And some people are not very familiar with the taxa. They can only ID to a certain level. Like they can ID to order, they can ID to family. So they've put this filter so that they only see observations that are beyond that level. So if they can ID to family, they will select family so that only observations that are above family level will show up so that they can help narrow it down further. And
So that's on the filters.
and once you can put the filters, and once you see this tab again, it will be filtered. We are still showing non-filtered tab. If you suppose I click on this unknown observation, so unknown refers to the observations that have not been provided any ID. So some observers, perhaps they forget to ID their observation, or because they have no idea what it is, what it might be. So in these situations, the observation is left without an identification. Although it still counts as NATE's ID, it's still eligible for research grade. It will not show up if the person who knows IDing, if they put these filters that we mentioned before, this sort of observations will not show up there. So that's a major drawback of not IDing your observations while uploading. So even if the observer doesn't know exact species or family or they can ID it to whatever level they're comfortable with. Like we can see here that this is a plant. So if they had put at least a plant ID, it would have showed up when we filtered it with this. But since it does not have any ID, it won't show up. So what identifiers do with this observations is we can just add a basic ID by clicking on add ID tab, and we can put the basic ID that we know. So I know this is a plant, so I'll just put the ID of kingdom planting. So that's the label I know. So I'll put that ID. So the people who know ID better than me can reach to this observation.
So I was going to say, if you there are mass uploaders also. So they'll be uploading a ton of observations on desktop. So then it'll all come off as unknown or maybe without a date or location. And so that ends up that is also one reason why these unknown observations pop up. So what we aim to do is get enough identifiers, so that these unknown observations are also tackled during CNC, and also train people to give further IDs.
And so here Paul will take over again. He'll explain how the specific filters work, how the interface looks when you filter by a specific taxa. Here you can see formicity, that is ant. He has filtered by ants. He'll explain how that would work.
Okay, so if you're comfortable with certain taxa, like for me, I'm personally quite familiar with ants. So I have filtered by ants. So like all observations below the family Formicidae will show up, like all genus or subfamily or species of ants, they will all come under this. So like if I select the first observation under this one, like this person is identified as the genus Camponotus. So they are sure of this ID, and I can give a further ID than this by if I know exactly what species it is. But say I'm not completely familiar with this genus itself, but I want to try to identify it. So what I can do is I can check for suggestions that are found in that area that have been identified to research grade before. So this one, like it sets the sorts by default. So then all the observations that are found in your location and of that genus. So this person has already identified it to genus before. So like everything under that genus that has been observed in your area and put to research grade, 2 or more identifiers have agreed to it. So then it will show up here. So then you can search all of these. There are 10 suggestions. So through all these suggestions, you can go through, try to compare. Is this what it looks like? Like, is the coloration the same? Is the morphology the same? And you can try and check what species it is. So for me, I managed to figure out this is Camponotus nirvanae. So then I'll select this suggestion. Uh, uh, I'll select this suggestion and it will show up on this ID. And so this allows you to give you a further ID from based on the research grade observations that are found in your area. And next we come to the data quality, which I'll hand over to Aditya. So you can take over.
Yeah, so data quality again refers to certain parameters that are set by the iNaturalist. So these parameters decide whether an observation is eligible to go into the research grade category or not. So if all of these are correct, if all of them fall into the category of yes, that is, if all of them are present in the observation, this observation will become research grade. So here you can see certain parameters that are there. First one is date specified. This refers to whether a date is specified in the observation or not. If no date is specified, it becomes quite tough to identify the observations reliably. And like rather than identify it, the data accuracy is lower because you don't know when the organism was observed, if it was recent or not. It's not very helpful to have data without all the metadata. So, which is very important in the field of biology, in the field of
Research.
biodiversity. Date and location are quite important. So that's why even if one of them is not there, if there's no
become
date, if there's no location specified, the observation becomes casual read and it cannot go further. Next is if whether it has photo or sounds. So if it does not have any record, a concrete proof of the organism, if there's no photo, there's no audio, we cannot ID it. It's different from some other citizen science platforms like eBird, where you can upload observations, upload checklist even without photos, even without audios. But since here this is we
Like
it's not the same on iNaturalist because it's a much
the
more
community
broader
well,
community. For eBird is only for birds, and birds generally have a good data, like a
and
good data set
curators are
already.
present to curate.
So they like generally we know what species are common, of which bird species are common in an area and which are not, which might not be present. But here it's different because we are dealing with a lot more biodiversity. Here one can just you can't guess because there's not enough data about other taxa. There's not we don't know what all plants are common in one place, what all insects are found in one place. We can't.
We can't upload
It's
videos.
not. It's not possible to identify observation to species level without a concrete proof. And iNaturalist is a more community-based initiative compared to eBird. So here it's necessary for at least 2 or 3 people to agree to the identification for it to become research rate for the data to be uploaded to GBook and thus provided to the researchers. So for that, the others need some concrete proof to identify it. Thus, having photos or sounds is very important. It's required to upload at least something. Then next we have whether the IT has been supported by 2 or more. So if it has been supported by 2 or more people, if so then it becomes research grade, as we have mentioned many times before. Now here we have certain fields that are not judged by the algorithm, because algorithm can see whether if the date is specified, if the location is there, as if it has been ID'd by 2 or more people, if it has photos and audios. But this stuff we this this fields are marked by users manually. So what we can do is date is accurate. If someone feels that the date is not accurate, they can flag it as no, the date is not accurate, and the observation will become casual grade. Same with other fields if the location is inaccurate. So suppose someone posts an observation of a plant that's not known from that certain region, or if it's a photo from taken from the internet. So in that case, this can be done. You can mark this that the date is not accurate, location is not accurate, so that it does not become research rate and it does not uh, put wrong data in incorrect data, low quality data in GPI. Organism is wild. So if I see that the plant in this observation is someone's garden plant, it's from a garden, it's evidently not, it was evidently planted by a human and did not grow by itself, or if it's an observation of a pet or a zoo animal. So I can flag this as no, the organism is not wide. I can click on that so that the observation becomes casual. Flagging any of these fields as no negatively can affects the data quality of the observation, the grade, and it goes down to casual. Even if it's research grade, if you flag any of this as incorrect or no, it will go down to casual grade. Evidence of organism. So sometimes even if a photo is there, you don't see an organism. It's a moving photo or it's photo of some object with no visible organism in the photo. So you can mark this as no evidence of organism. Evidence, it does not mean that there like audio counts as evidence. You can also upload GIFs. Although you cannot upload videos on iNaturalist, but you can you can convert the video to a GIF and you can upload that on iNaturalist. That's allowed. So any form of media like audio or photos or GIF, if any three of this is present, then the evidence is there if it's visible in that. Recent evidence of organism. So sometimes what happens is people end up uploading observations of species that are not known to exist right now. Like suppose uh, fossils, you can say people upload fossils, even though iNaturalist is not for fossils, some people still do upload fossil taxa, the fossils they find. But since all the data goes to GBIF, we can't provide them data that says that, okay, this organism that's known to be extinct was found in this place at this date. So that might lead to confusion. So for that, this field is here. No recent evidence of organism. It doesn't mean that one person can't upload an observation that was taken. It was observed by them years ago. That's possible. Even museum records get uploaded on iNaturalist, even though not regularly. It's not limited. Although you can do it if you put the correct location and date of collection. But generally, it's avoided, and for that, this field is here. And next is evidence related to a single subject. So this is a new field that was introduced very recently. This refers to whether the observation has photos of only one organism or more. So what happens is while uploading observations, some people end up uploading multiple photos of different organisms in the same observation. So I'm trying to upload I'm trying to upload three photos, one of a tiger, one of a butterfly, one of a plant, and somehow they all end up in one observation. So they're all mixed. So it's not an observation of any one organism. We can't ID it as any of them. I can't ID it as a butterfly because there's a plant and a tiger. Like other photos belong to the other species. So that's confusing and it's not very, it's mixed up. So it does not uh, produce quality data. So for that, this field was introduced. So if there are photos of more than one organism, then you can flag this. But one thing is, if there are multiple organisms in one photo, that is allowed. You can, the observer can duplicate the photo, the observation for the other organism, and they can specify which organism the observation is for. So if suppose I have a photo of butterfly, but there's also a flower in that observation. So I can upload the observation for the flower as well as the butterfly. I can use the same photo. but I'll have to specify which organism the observation is for. But if I upload a photo, two photos in one organism, one showing a butterfly and one showing a flower independently, then in that case, that's not how it's supposed to work. So you can this field is as evidence related to the single subject. And that's you mostly it for the data quality index. And there are some shortcuts here. You can zoom into the photo with this. You can zoom out. You can adjust the brightness a bit. You can open the photo in a new tab, in a separate tab. And here you can mark, as I mentioned before, reviewed. So if you unselect this, then that will mean that this observation will be marked as not reviewed by you. It will be marked, so you can come back to it again if you did not provide an ID, or if you went through it and if you want to make this reviewed, like if you make an observation reviewed, if you mark an observation reviewed, you'll get any updates on the observation. So suppose someone commented on the observation, if someone ID, if someone else suggested an ID to that observations, even if you did not, if it's marked as reviewed, you will get a notification about that. There's a quick add to favorites and mark the observation as captive or cultivated field, which it's just to make it more convenient and easier. Next, we have. So this is one of the most unique things about iNaturalist. It has an AI that is trained with hundreds and thousands of photos collected through the site itself from verified observations, cited observations that have that belong to the research grade. The observations which have been ID'd by more than 2-3 people. So what happens here is, so the iNaturalist has an AI called computer vision. So it's trained in image recognition. So it will scan this photo and it will look for matches in its database of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of photos and see what matches, if there are any matching photos that it can find. And if it finds similar photos, it will look up what that photo, what that observation was ID'd as. So this is sort of different from other AI in the sense that it does not look up for details. It looks for like it just sees if this photo matches with other photos in the database. It does not work like the way Google Lens works. It's sort of different. And it has features such as it can narrow down the list of photos it will go through based on location and the taxon selected. So suppose if this you can see that this observation is from Bangalore. So what the AI will do is it will filter observations only from Bangalore or maybe Karnataka or at most India. It will only go through that narrowed list of observations. So it's easier to identify. It becomes easier because you can find localized matches and it eliminates similar looking species that are known from other regions of the world. Like there are species that look similar but are only like found in totally different regions of the world. Like there might be I might have a butterfly, say a plain tiger or a striped tiger, which looks similar to the North American butterfly of monarch. But it's known, it's very clear that the species in India and North America, Americas, it's different. That one is monarch, this one is striped tiger. There are visible morphological differences, but overall it looks similar. So it can narrow down based on location, based on region, so that it doesn't have to go through the millions of observations from other places and confuse the taxa known from here with other taxa, which are not known to be found here. So that leads to more accurate results. As you can see here, it's suggesting Ideola gray, which is Indian pond heron, not just any pond heron, but Indian pond heron. It can confidently say that it's this genus, and it is most likely supposed to be this particular species. So it deduced that based on the location, based on the photo that was provided. You can the compare tab that is it's the same as the suggestions tab which Paul explained earlier. And it shows up the similar results. It's the same tab basically. And that's mostly it. And with that, we finish identifying on website. And Paul here will give you just a brief on how to ID on phone.
So basically, once you open phone, this screen will be up, and you can see your observations, your species count, your identification count. On the left corner, there's these three bars, and on that you can get these kind of tabs. And for identification, you just have to go on to Explore, and you'll see all the automatically it will filter by what location you are. So like it will show up my location at first, but you can also set other locations like India or Karnataka or any particular district or city, or even some specific like colleges or some locations that are set on iNaturalist that are uploaded on the database that you can select. And so if you take your location, you can see all the observations that are uploaded from your particular location. So I'm in Bangalore. So all these observations are from Bangalore, and I can like try to identify any of them. Since Bangalore is the region, like if your location is most likely the region you'll be a bit familiar with, since for the average observer. So that's why it automatically selects to your location. But yeah, you can change the filter as well. And the filters are basically the same as the website as well. It's just the app is a bit less convenient because of the lag, and it's not exactly catered for identifiers. So like you have to select every individual observation, then go on this, give a comment or suggest an ID, which ends up taking a bit more time usually. So you might cover like 100 observations in 50 or like in 30 minutes in site, but on the app you might only be able to do 50 observations, as it just becomes a bit more time taking, and like it's not that convenient. That's why we suggest using the site if you can. So with that, we come to an end of this entire session. So if you guys have any questions, I think you can ask us, and we have given the QR codes for the CNC ID team WhatsApp group. If you are not in that group, please do join it. And we have a link for Young Naturalist Community, which is our personal kind of group where we have discussions relating to iNaturalist outside of CNC, and just biodiversity talks in general, and bringing together young naturalists. And honestly, everyone is free to join no matter the age. You just have to have a young heart. That's the key for requirement for our group. It's just we have a specific iNaturalist project where only people younger than 21 can join. So yeah, if you guys, anyone can join the WhatsApp group. It's free for all. So yeah.
You can contact us, you can email us if you need any more help. And with that, we'll open the session for discussions.
So if anyone has any questions, they can ask
You
now.
can put it in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah.
You can unmute them, I can ask if anyone has any doubts. All right, then I guess that's it.
Does anyone have any questions? You can,
hello.
we'll
Hi.
wait for a few minutes.
I'm audible, right?
They're typing it down in the chat.
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
Yeah. Hi, Paul and Aditya. So I just had this doubt, like, what are the rules regarding this copyright thing on iNat? Like the photos that we are uploading, is it like easily, I mean, openly usable by others, or
You can actually select that. So there are options for that CC by NCC. I'm not exactly sure of the exact, yeah.
So It just follows the basic copyright rules. You can select the copyright you want it to be. You can select the certificate you want it to be. You can restrict all the rights to yourself, or you can put it open for all. You can put it CC by NC. That is, anyone can you people can use it for non-commercial purposes, but they'll have to credit you. That's one thing. And you're supposed to upload only your own photos that were taken by you of the organism that you observed, the individuals that you observed. Since iNaturalist is about post records of the individuals that you encounter, not the species itself. So it's not allowed to take up photos from the internet and upload that. Though you field sketches and audio recordings and stuff, like anything that was created by you is allowed. So if you were on field but could not take a photo, but made a sketch of that, that is allowed to upload. You can upload that. Or suppose you were there with you were there with someone else. They managed to get a photo of that, but you did not. So in that case, sometimes it's fine to upload those the others photos with their permission, with their explicit permission, though it should not become the norm. On like there are some, like in some cases it's fine, but generally what we advise that people don't follow that rule. Like it's better to try to take your own photos. Can be uploading back to the yes. Yeah, there's no limit to like you don't, it's not like you can upload only pictures you took this week or last month or this year. You can upload records from
Actually mention about CNC too.
what?
For CNC, the fix, can you
Okay.
take back the fix actually?
Since CNC is a bioblitz, that is we are trying to upload as many observations within our time frame. Only the observations that were made during that time frame will count in the project. But on iNaturalist in general, you can upload observation from any time, basically. It doesn't need to be recent. It just has to be taken from by you or someone you personally know, and you can upload their photos with explicit permission. Suppose, can you explain more about the observation license?
You can check it on the
Yeah,
site
I'll,
itself. Actually, we can
I will
send you
link
the
it because I'm not that familiar with the copyright laws. It just follows the general CC laws that are there. Wait, it will follow. Wait,
Just a minute.
just a minute, please. Please give me 1 minute.
Just a minute. Okay.
I'll just share the screen.
So
Here you
you
can
can
see.
select like the licensing
Yeah.
is given over here. So like all this information is there under this link. We'll forward that link.
You can go to your
Yeah.
profile setting and choose there.
Yeah.
It's just the general CC laws that are followed. Uh, there are few categories. By default, is selected as attribution non-commercial. That is, others can use it for non-commercial purposes, but they will have to credit you for that if they use your media, your content. So your no copyright CC 0. So this means that your data will be in public domain. Anyone can access it anyhow. without your they do not need your permission, explicit permission to use it anywhere. They're free to use it however they want. Then it's attribution. So anyone can use it for anything, but they will have to give you the credit for that. They'll have to mention that this data was taken from here and it belongs to this person. And then the non-commercial, they can use it by crediting you for non-commercial purposes. This one's I'm not very sure about. I'm not very familiar with these laws. And the last one is no license. That is all rights are reserved. That you will retain full copyright over your content, and no one can use it without your permission for any purpose, even if they credit you. Even if like they'll have to take your explicit legal permission to use anything you have uploaded. You can check out more information about this through here. It's like this in the just their own website as well. Creative Commons website. You can get more information over here. Creative Commons. I'll send the web in the comments if you want.
Okay. Thank you, Aditya.
So any other doubts?